So a bit of background about the education technology space, or the education space in Kenya, was in 2003, our government made primary school education free. So we achieved since then almost universal enrollment, which was the good news, right? But then after that, we kept seeing studies coming out and there were problems. So I'm not going to go too much into what the problems in our education system are, but we know that numeracy rates aren't great. So 10% of standard 8 students can't solve class 2 problems. We know that there's a teacher shortage. Our national average is 45 students per teacher. And in some areas of Kenya, up in western, northeastern, it's as high as 60, 65. And then there's teacher absenteeism. So if you pop into an average Kenyan school and you pop into the average classroom, there's a 1 in 4 chance that the teacher is absent and not there. So about 45 students waiting to learn, no one to teach them. And then the fourth most glaring, probably not problem, but glaring symptom of what's happening is the dropout rate after primary school. So we're seeing 40% of students after primary school are dropping out and not moving on to secondary, let alone higher education. So what do we do about this? What does this solution look like? So I think globally there's many school-centric solutions. So build better schools, better environments for students to come to. In Kenya, there's a lot of focus on teacher-centric solutions, build or develop better capacity among teachers, better role models and instructors in the classroom. And I think globally, often a learner-centric approach is forgotten. And technology is more and more trying to address that problem. So 2003, primary school education was made free. So 10 years later, in 2013, our new president announced 1 laptop for every standard 1 student. So this was a huge promise, a huge step. It still hasn't been delivered. There is a wealth of problems that I think Mr. President and myself have been encountering and sharing along the way. So, what do we learn from this, and what does it look like? 1 laptop per child, 1 computing device per child. Does it look like the OLPC model? Does it look like HP giving out desktops and a computer lab in every school? Or does it look a bit like ELimu's poster child, Albert, going and using a tablet at a library after school? So my co-founder and I were very cognizant of the fact that when you take a picture like this, it's quite a sexy picture. And it's on a sexy canvas of an African child, an African school, and if he's using a tablet, it makes for a nice picture on a website. But what are we actually trying to achieve? What kind of learning outcomes do we hope to get? And how do we aim to change the way we approach teaching and learning in Kenya? So about ELimu. We're a Kenyan organization. We were born out of the iHub, which is, I hope all of you know, one of the leading innovation spaces and ecosystems, innovation hubs in Kenya. And my co-founder and I met there, and we said, let's make a Kenyan solution for a Kenyan problem. So all our content on our tablets is local Kenyan curriculum content, but not just a PDF version of a textbook, but once you log in and you pick one of the subjects, you see animations and videos and sound clips that are made by local animators and have culturally relevant references. So if we're teaching division, we're going to ask the children, if there's 12 mandazis and 4 friends, how many do they each get? So at every point, we're trying to make sure that the learning process is fun and engaging, but also relevant and contextualized for the child. And then when we were done with that, we said, well, that surely can't be it. That can't be our curriculum, but it was. And we said, what other lessons are there to be learned by your average 14-year-old? What do they need to equip themselves to be productive leaders and participants of 21st century economies? So this is where we developed our extended learning curriculum, which is focused on responsible citizenship. It's focused on human rights, personal financial literacy, environmental conservation, just everything else outside of the curriculum that we thought a well-rounded citizen should know, in case they're not learning these lessons at school or at home. So those pages have a green background and they're differentiated from our regular content. So what we've learned along the way, we started out and we made content and we said, great, we've got an app. And when we went to schools, they're like, what do we do with an app? We don't have any devices. So we said, all right, we've got an app and it's loaded on a tablet, it's preloaded, you can connect and update, but it's a preloaded app on a tablet. And they said, well, we don't even have internet connectivity or electricity. And actually, when we started, only 15% of Kenyan schools were plugged into the grid. And now it's 87%. So well done to our Ministry of Energy. So along the way, we realized there's so many pieces of the puzzle, so many pieces of the ecosystem that need to be filled. And we're not going to do it alone. So when we look at one of our larger proof of concept schools that's got 300 tablets there, we know we have Safaricom providing internet connectivity, we have Bbox Solar providing power, we have secure storage because it happens to be in an Army garrison school, and then we've got tablets. We partnered with Qualcomm Wireless Reach for that. And then we've obviously got the ELimu content that we continuously work on and update. And one of the biggest lessons we learned, and I think this was the story for maybe the fail-fair, was training. We thought it's an intuitive device, the teachers will pick it up, the students will understand how to use it. The students did. They took a whole 3 minutes to figure out how to use a tablet. The teachers, on the other hand, didn't. And that posed a huge problem for us because the tablets were taken in, locked in the cabinet, and the students never saw them. So from a policy perspective, we learned a really important lesson about the importance of a teacher as in a cultural point of view and what their role means in terms of adapting new technologies. And then overall, we said we can't just continue doing this and taking nice pictures. What are we trying to achieve? So we have an independent research company that's actually gathering evidence and seeing what we're doing there, what kind of learning outcomes and impact we're having by this intervention. And so what we've seen is, first and foremost, as a for-profit social enterprise, we know that we've got to sell better learning outcomes. We've got to sell improved test scores. So when we saw, basic test scores going through the roof, yes, that's one good tick, not in an ideal pedagogical point of view, but it's a good point to have. And then we saw critical analytical thinking skills improving. Problem solving was moving away from a rote memorization into critically thinking and understanding difficult to grasp concepts. And with our extended learning content, we're seeing an improved social and environmental consciousness. And I remember this is not something we went into our first school with clipboards to measure, but our hygiene and sanitation content addressed open defecation. And we saw that the school in Kawangware slum nearby is, we saw open defecation around the playground decreasing. So there were all very surprising things. And again, even with IT literacy, it's not something we went looking for, but immediately saw typing speeds of students went through the roof very quickly. And we also saw that when we brought in other devices, laptops, smartphones, their intimidation was less and their ability to navigate through them was much faster. And then most recently, we've seen a changed approach to teaching and learning with a greater bias towards girls improving their test scores more than boys, interestingly. We don't know what that means yet, but I'll probably speak to Mr. Song later. So that's what we did, what we learned. If it wasn't for the iHub, we would never have met our designers, our co-founders, many of the people that have worked to bring this together. If it wasn't for the larger ecosystem, people solving other problems in terms of solar access to power, connectivity, organizations like the BRIC that help us give connectivity at last mile schools that don't have good 3G and Wi-Fi coverage. So Nairobi is a bit of a perfect storm. It's a bit of everything mixed into one, but I think it worked so well for us, and we don't know if it can be replicated on a global scale, but we certainly are lucky to be here. Thank you.